you know how long it's been since we've seen a movie in a theater?
Pretty long.
Our last review, The Invisible Man, was the last time we were here.
Yes.
At AMC Theaters.
And then shortly after they closed down, which is very understandable, makes sense. But now they have opened up and we've decided that we were going to come to Tenet. We're going to do the social distancing. We've got our masks on. We've got our wipes. We've got our
sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer. We're good to go.
So let's go watch Tenet.
Yes. People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big bowl of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
What in God's name are you talking about?
Pretty much this movie, everything about the time travel in Tenet is reflecting something that I love about timey-wimey movies and TV shows.
Right. It felt very familiar. If you've watched Doctor Who, if you've watched Fringe, basically everything that has to do in turn with some sort of time travel in a way.
Timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
This film...
Jeremy Bearimy.
Yeah, it's like they took every little time travel piece of knowledge that you may know when it comes to pop culture or physics in general and puts it in like the boggle and throws it down. It's like, that's the movie.
With the little Nolan in there.
Of course, there's Nolan all over this thing. It feels like a Nolan film.
It does.
In every way, shape, or form.
Yes.
A welcome, refreshing score because it's Ludwig Göransson.
Right.
He's killing it right now. The Mandalorian score, and now getting to do Tenet with Christopher Nolan, who had Hans Zimmer forever. And this feels like Ludwig Göransson kind of doing his best Hans Zimmer impersonation.
A little bit.
With his own touch.
With his own touch to it. It's very Nolan music. If you know the music of all Nolan movies, it does have that sort of underlining tone when it comes to it. Like, they go hand in hand with the movies that you're watching. Especially with this movie, where when we were watching the movie, it felt like we were ticking down to something in the movie, which makes total sense for what happens in this movie.
And this movie not only propels you forward and backwards, the music itself propels forwards and backwards. But this music, very electronic, mixed in with so many different sounds, like kind of what you get from The Mandalorian, and it is bombastic. It hits you so much in a very Christopher Nolan way.
Right.
But when it comes down to it, I mean, it definitely ticks the clock for what is happening forward and backward in this film.
Right. I also really like the characters that we have in this story. I think that all the actors were very strong when it comes to playing their parts, especially Kenneth Branagh. I think that Kenneth Branagh did an absolutely amazing job. It was very simple the way that he approached his character, but it was very menacing and very it was great.
Frightening.
Frightening.
It's a frightening Bond villain, honestly. The whole movie feels like James Bond mixed with Frequency, mixed in that episode where Rugrats go through the mirror babies. Like you said, Fringe. I mean, there's so many...
Doctor Who.
Especially Doctor Who.
The first thing that came to mind was, if you are familiar with Doctor Who and familiar with the way certain aspects happen in the show, especially when it comes to certain characters in Doctor Who, that this will seem familiar. Absolutely. In that way. I think that when it comes to Christopher Nolan movies, you kind of have to... I go back to Prestige in that one line.
Are you watching closely?
I take that wording to every Christopher Nolan movie that I ever watched, because that is the type of like storytelling that he wants to tell. So you have to kind of pay attention.
There are some things that I'm still left scratching my head, more so in the sense that, well, what about this in this situation? You know, you start analyzing it. Even at one point in the movie, they tell you, kind of like in Austin Powers, where you'll have more fun if you don't think about it. That goes for you all too.
How could I have been unthawed in the 90s and traveled back to, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed?
But with this one, they flat out tell you, like, don't think about it too hard because it's fun. It's an action movie. It's a spy thriller. It is very espionage-y, where it's like, we got to go for this to go to this to get to this. And with that, it's that very crazy, intricate time travel to where you're looking at it from a sense of all these movies and all these TV shows that you watched before, and you're like, oh, that's from this movie, that's from this movie. Not necessarily, but the idea of that form of time travel, even Avengers Endgame is relevant to what they've shown here.
Right.
Back to the Future, cause and effect type stuff. But when it comes down to it, it was a spy thriller with awesome characters. And yes, Kenneth Branagh was frightening. He was very subtly frightening in a way where it felt like reality, but in the same crazy setting, that we're getting from beginning to end, and then end to beginning with this movie.
The only thing about this movie, though, too, I feel like that there is more to the story than we are actually led on to believe. And I hope maybe we could get something down the line, right. But I feel like in a sense that we just got a piece of, because I felt like it's open-ended on both ends of when you first start the movie, it's open-ended, and then when you end the movie, it's very open-ended on that way too. Like, it's not seared down to one thing.
It is and it isn't. It is in a sense of an anthology type story where it's like a standalone. Boom. And if you wanted to, James Bond is on for his next mission, right, and he goes on to something else. So I feel like there is an ability to do that, but at the same time, if it were to end and it's over with this, I am completely fine with what they've kind of given us, and right, I'm going to have to fill in all the blanks myself,
right,
without actually seeing it happen. But I would love, right, in the third movie, if things are happening in the third movie that took place in certain scenes of the first movie. Very small, of course. You don't have to do the whole damn movie, but there's more to it.
This is all, like, all of the movies that he's made is going to come together into one universe, and he's going to have all of his characters.
Oh, that would be amazingly messy. But,
yes, it would be.
But if they all existed in the same world, that would be awesome. Obviously, that means Batman would have to be in their world.
Well, Batman is its own separate thing.
He definitely is. Christopher Nolan, making a very ambitious movie with a lot of moving pieces, and yes, some things will get lost in the fray, especially because he goes so convoluted with certain things and certain stories that and dialogue itself, man, it's just so quick. There's one point where they have like 3 different portions of the story going at the same time, and it's jumping from one to another, and it's 3 different times all following the same story thread down the line. I love that he did that. And for me, because of that intricacy, you do end up, some things end up not coming through 100%. There's even a moment where John David Washington, like, has his hands up, and then he puts them on the table, and then he has one hand up, then they're back on the table. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, where's the consistency? Who is keeping
editing?
Yeah, like, who is keeping track of where his hands should be? But Nolan just does sometimes, So, yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those ones you have to keep going back to watch, and those moments are probably going to fade over time with all the things he does pull off, especially when it comes to his huge grand scale stunt and set pieces, action sequences that you see what he does with each of the movies, especially the Batman movies. I mean, hijacking a plane in midair in Dark Knight Rises, flipping a semi in The Dark Knight, and here he crashes a plane into a giant hangar.
Right.
And it is well done and well utilized from every aspect, on the ground, on the plane, in the warehouse. Huge scale when it came to the execution.
I will say, for me, kind of going, because I went into this movie with 2 different perspectives for myself. I went it as myself knowing Christopher Nolan, knowing the way that he, like, based off of his other movies, like how I should approach this movie myself.
Right.
And then I also kind of was thinking of ways, like, if you're just like an average moviegoer, you never really kind of go into Nolan's movies just having that thought process. You just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
I think when it came down to that, there was a lot of things that happened at the beginning, especially when the ball starts to get rolling for John David's character.
Right.
That I felt like maybe those who yes, watched Nolan movies before, but have never really kind of gone back and rewatched movies, and it's all face value for them when they go see movies, that there would be a loss of translation when they're watching the movie. That happened a lot at the beginning. I was like, okay, I could see how people would not really understand or pay attention to what's going on at this moment. Like, even somebody next to me, like, he got up to probably go to the bathroom or something. I'm like, yeah,
you can't do that
during a Nolan movie.
He came back. He was there for the rest of the day.
Yeah, he came back, but it just felt like, okay. And then as soon as you got towards, like, the ending of the movie, as it started to kind of slow down a little bit, but still have that action-packed side of it, you're like, okay, this is a little bit more easier for people to kind of follow.
Sure.
So in the movie, like, at the beginning, it's like, they want to get to the point and tell you, like, this is what's happening. This is how we're going to get to this point.
Right.
But it's like, wait, what's going on? Like, obviously with us, we're like, okay, like, we're putting the pieces together, and then we had the ending. But for somebody who goes to a movie just for the face value of entertainment,
sure,
it might be a loss of translation in that point.
Just in terms of the general populace, you guys who analyze the hell out of all these movies just like we do,
right.
It's so crazy how this movie could go in your mind,
right?
And that's exciting. I love that.
Yeah, because there was a point in the movie too where things are happening. I'm like, oh, I already know exactly what's going on, and then coming back to it later, I'm like, okay, that's exactly what he did. So.
Yeah, but at the same time, there are times where I'm realizing it in moments where you're supposed to realizing certain things going on. So it's like, yeah, exactly, that's what's happening. So it's more like, yeah, I understand it. Multiple times I kept looking over and noticing we're both going, when something would happen, like, hell yeah, okay, yeah, I get where you're going here. Yeah. There was a little point where I started getting lost, but mostly because I started daydreaming about something else. But then I came back up like, wait, what happened? Oh, okay, and it happens to be one of the discrepancies we're talking about, but we talked through it and came up with a resolution that suited both our needs.
Right, it's like you have your sugar rush that's happening, and then kind of towards the end, you're like, it's still there, but you're coming down from it.
And you're trying to realize...
And then you're trying to figure out, like, wait, what?
Yeah, what happened in the movie. And, man, it's fun to break it down. But John David Washington, Robert Pattinson did amazing. So suave with their secret agent roles. And I would love to see another chapter.
Yes, I would love to see their characters again in these roles. I think that if they were able to kind of flesh out some more of the story, if they were to maybe do another part, who knows? Christopher Nolan doesn't really go back to another story. But
besides the Batman series, the Dark Knight series,
which is a story that it's understandable.
Yeah, he had a story to tell. It was going to take 3 movies. Unfortunately, things changed, and he ended up having to adapt for the 3rd one. But either way, this one, I think he came out swinging, just in the sense of I had a good time. I really enjoyed myself. We laughed during certain moments, more so like, really happy with much of this film. So for me, I would probably give it a 4.5 out of 5, just because of the intricacy and execution of the time travel aspects, inversion. And
I love time travel.
Yeah, I mean, I always love it when it pops up in movies. Bill and Ted's, Marty McFly in the back, and of Back to the Future Part 2. Like, I love that.
For me, for the time travel, as far as time travel, I love thinking about everything surrounding the time travel. Like, okay, well, if you do this, well, you have to do this, but then he's doing this, and then he has to do this, but then why would he go and back and do this? I love that part of time travel because it gets your mind going, and then you're thinking, there's always times where I'm going ping-ponging inside my head. I'm like, well, he has to do this, but this. Well, that doesn't make sense because he has to do this. So it's all in good fun.
What's your score?
I would say my score would be a 4 out of 5.
Sure.
For this. I wish that the music itself was a little bit more...
it kind of just takes you there versus something you can play over and over.
Right. It's more of like emotional roller coaster. Like it's part of the movie. It's not like its own separate thing with the movie.
And the score that they played in one of the trailers that I really enjoyed, like, it comes very late in the movie and only for that scene. So like I wish there would have been different renditions of that throughout the movie. That did kind of hinder my score as well. And it might even drop as I analyze it, or it may even go up depending on how I feel about it after watching it a couple times. So either way, thank you guys for watching our non-spoiler review for Tenet. If you saw it, what did you think? Tell us down in the comments below. What's your favorite Christopher Nolan movie? Inception on this side of the table. But when it comes down to it, we want to hear what you guys thought of it. Tell us down there. Give us your ideas, your theories. You can also like and subscribe.
And do the thing on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Stardust.
All the social networking gin joints, you know where they are. Kick into the party, fuel the party, keep the party going on our Patreon. Check out our Harley Quinn reactions and reviews available on our channel now. Thank you guys so much, and as always...
Now it's time to say goodbye.
And this party is over.
Bye.
Bye.